Hello everybody, I'm Chai. I'm a streamer, an artist, and a video game enthusiast who's horrible at playing video games. And today, I'm going to be playing Unsighted, a quite frankly, criminally underrated game developed by Studio Pixelpunk in 2021. The story may seem generic upon first glance, basically boiling down to a chosen hero that uses a magic sword to save the world and their lost lover with it, but I think the story is actually quite unique and thought-provoking. This, in combination with the gorgeous pixel art style and a fast-paced puzzle combat-focused gameplay system, make for a game that truly captured my heart on the first playthrough. So what better way to show my love for the game's well-thought-out and intricate melee combat system than to throw it out the window entirely and decide that running around with a pea shooter is superior in every way. Here's a list of some arbitrary rules that I came up with for this run. Firstly, we're not using the melee attack button, obviously. Secondly, no cogs are allowed, because if you use cogs, you can literally just sit there, hit stuff, die, and respawn until the sun engulfs the earth, which isn't my idea of fun. And finally, parrying is allowed, and while yes, it could be argued that using a parry is technically using a melee weapon, I personally consider it to be separate from the primary attack. Also, you don't gain any riposte damage from guns with parrying, it just makes everything more fun to watch and play. Okay, with all of that out of the way, let's start the run. Okay, so to begin, I'm going to book it directly to the elevator, conveniently gets the 4-digit passcode on it, and make my way up to the tutorial area, where the game takes pity on my lack of armaments by giving me an axe. I equip it, rearrange some controls, free Iris from a pile of rubble, and make my way to the first terminal, where Iris gives me some chips that I equip. Including the strength chip, which literally does nothing for me, but it's fine. Entering the next room, I encounter the first major roadblock of the run. I can't hit anything. Obviously. You don't get the gun for a few more rooms, and even if you can make it there, which requires a lot of luck in the first place, in order to cause the chest containing it to unlock, you have to kill every enemy surrounding it, which you need the gun to do. So what do we do here? Alright, so Unsighted has a crafting system in which, by collecting materials and blueprints, you can make weapons, cogs, and other crafting materials at a bench. However, the blueprint for the blaster, which is the easiest gun to craft, isn't found until much later in the game. Literally can't do anything. I'm a failure of a creator, this was a stupid challenge, I should have known. I just don't use the blueprint. Yeah, so for some reason Studio Pixelpunk made it so that even without the blueprint, you can craft anything you want to your heart's content, which is absolutely perfect for this run. So after a quick Google search, I learned that I can craft a blaster using a spigot and 3 scrap. That's definitely progress. And actually getting these materials is surprisingly simple. All that we have to do is go outside of the main terminal room. Here we position a desired enemy between me and one of these 2 shooty boys, parry the enemy while it's attacking, and parry 1 or 2 volleys of bullets at the enemy in order to kill them. While this is difficult, especially considering I just suck at the parry timing, it is certainly doable. Now we just have to do this for like 10 minutes. Okay, so we have a gun now. With this tremendous feat accomplished, we patiently take out these enemies, make our way through the area to drop all of our hard-earned money at a random cathedral because of threats of physical violence. You can make a religion out of this, and get immediately throttled by biblically accurate angels, penance for the previous joke. After skipping all of the juicy lore, we find ourselves revived in the hub area of the game, Gear Village. There isn't much here for this run that's super important, other than a few guns that you can get. However, something notable happens the second that you end the first cutscene of this area. The time mechanic of this game begins. Just like in real life, as time progresses, you will begin to see your friends lose their sanity and crumble into dust around you as you can do nothing but sit and watch. This also applies to your character, by the way. If an ally's timer runs out, they turn into an enemy and you lose access to any services that they provide, which obviously isn't ideal. But if your timer runs out, your entire save file is deleted. Permanently. While you can turn off this mechanic if you want, I chose to keep it on for this run, both because I like it and because I want to make this run harder. So throughout the run, we're going to be constantly racing against the clock. To circumvent this issue, you can find meteor dust throughout the world, which will increase the timer by 24 hours, which is about 20 minutes in real time. But meteor dust is sparse. So throughout this playthrough, I mainly chose to hoard it and use it on myself unless it was otherwise necessary. Sorry guys, I would share some of it, but I'm keeping it. Sorry about your lack of sentience. Making my way to the first boss with just a little bit of difficulty, I learned that I can indeed count to 5 and open a chest to find a new pair of Nikels, which causes Arachna Queen Spinarch to wake up and run into me with the force of an agitated freight train. This fight isn't hard, but it is long, so I almost managed to lose it due to horrible gameplay on my end. After that fight, I make my way through the area ahead in order to get the bullet chip that is behind a pile of grass to the right. It's at this point that I remember that I have no way of breaking grass, and there are no enemies around who can break it for me. While the bullet chip itself isn't necessary for the game, there is an area ahead in which there are some breakable objects that can't be moved or broken using the blaster, which is a major issue. Thankfully, I have an idea. After a bit of grinding, I managed to craft a shuriken, which can move platforms and break objects fairly easily. While it isn't the most reliable method of doing either of these things, it is certainly a method, which at the end of the day is all that I can ask for in this run. After grabbing the key from a random chest and making my way back to the terminal, I grab the map, which I forgot to do earlier, open the main door, fail some basic platforming made for literal children, which is always an ego boost, and make my way to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th bosses of this run, the Armos Knights, who, after a single failed attempt, go down without too much trouble. This allows me to grab a second shuriken, which the game actually has a hidden message for. I got my shuriken, little friend. You already have... Didn't know that there was an additional piece of dialogue for that. That's pretty funny. Very insightful commentary, Chai. Or should I say... Unsighted. For more incredible commentary like this, please drop by my Twitch at twitch.tv/weekchai, where I plan to stream frequently in the future. Also, like this video and subscribe to this channel for more dumb videos like this one. And now that that shameless plug's out of the way, I fail some more basic platforming, make my way out of the caves, and completely get lost in a random forest. Yeah, I literally died like 6 times here. For some reason, my little lizard brain was completely unable to comprehend the fact that I had to dodge and shoot at the same time in order to kill these bow-wielding enemies, which would cause me to either get shot by an arrow or pulverized into the earth by Mr. Anchor Arms over here. After taking it slowly and carefully, and by slowly and carefully, I of course mean I rush through the entire area at the speed of light, because I mean, do you see how little damage I'm doing? I make my way to the next terminal, where I realize that I have to go through the entire area again, almost die 45 times, have like 14 distinct heart attacks, and then quit out to spawn back at the most recent terminal again. Yeah, that was like an hour and a half of my time. After warping back to Gear Village and upgrading the blaster a few times, I play around with some fire in order to activate the fight against Forgotten Deity Asana, the first meteor shard holder. I naively drop in with half health before being properly humbled and coming back with full HP bar. While this fight is pretty long due to lack of damage, it isn't hard by any means. If I would have bothered to get the shotgun in Gear Village, this fight could have gone a lot more quickly. For some reason, Asana didn't even spawn their triple hand combo, which I normally have a really hard time dealing with. If I die here, I'm good with it. Alright, it's good. And with that fight out of the way, I can finally upgrade my blaster fully, allowing me to max out at 12 bullets total. And that's where I ended the first stream. I begin day 2 by immediately failing to remember what save file I used to begin the challenge. Man, today's gonna be productive, isn't it? Opening the entrance to the museum with relative ease, I activate the terminal before warping away and getting a syringe from Elisa with some spare meteor dust that I've gathered. While I'm in the area, I make my way back to the cathedral using the grenade launcher, obtained from the shopkeeper in Gear Village, and drop off the rest of the bolts needed to open up the door. This is where I fight my first secret boss of the run, M. This fight... Where do I begin? Okay, so, damage. No. In a normal run, you typically just need to parry her and fire off a massive spin or jump attack to take out a thick chunk of her health. But here, that's not really possible. As I said in the introduction, you don't get any bonus damage from attacking a stunned enemy with a gun. So for each attempt at this fight, I have to spend several minutes getting perfect parries and dodging in order to slowly and painfully whittle down her health. And after a few attempts at this fight, which is basically the equivalent of repeatedly bashing my face against a brick wall, I decide that I need a change. That's when I decide to finally go back and get the bullet chip, which increases our bullets' base damage by 1. While it doesn't make them do absolutely ludicrous amounts of damage, it does make it so that I can get up to 6 or 7 damage pretty consistently. And in a long fight like this, every point of damage matters. Plus, I mean, it's not like there's another option for increasing our damage that I could have easily acquired at this point in the run. So, after getting this chip, I go back in for a few more attempts. And maybe less if you... Oh god. Okay, I got it. Please be it, please be it, please be it, please be it. Okay. After a 9-minute boss fight, M is finally down. Now that my ego has been properly inflated, I open the lower cathedral door, obtain the cryojet, and get some more meteor dust, which I immediately use to prolong Iris and BB-42's timers, both for the chip slots and the weapon upgrades respectively. While I'm in the area, I grab the doctor's pistol from Vanna. At the time, I figured it would only be useful for the burn damage, and so I never bothered to upgrade it. Like an absolute tool. After explaining the game's lore very poorly to my Twitch chat, I make my way to the museum, break open valuable display cases, learn that I have no sense of timing or direction when it comes to the spinner platforming, and make my way to the next boss of this run, Ancient Guardian Luna, who I am very inconsistent with, to say the least. Even on a normal playthrough, I often find myself getting hit by follow-up attacks I'm not expecting, failing to dodge her long-range magic attacks, or just having trouble dealing with her summons in general. And with a lack of great offense and bonus parry damage, plus the added issue of needing to aim my shots, I found myself making a lot of mistakes, to say the least. But after a long fight, we win and get the meteor shard pretty easily. After finally realizing what a dunce I've been, I decided to stop being an idiot and upgrade the doctor's pistol to +5, providing a much needed damage buff. Why I didn't do this earlier is completely beyond me. I literally could have done it at any point once I reached Gear Village. Regardless, after testing out our damage on the Walking Anchor Arms ad, I decide that I'll call it a day, excited to storm through more bosses on day 3. Day 3 begins with me fiddling around with OBS for 5 minutes because my new mic was conflicting with the game audio capture. I'm beginning to notice a pattern. As I make my way to the third area, I try to take out a room of enemies and... Oh. Okay, so, context. The previous day, I tried the boss rush mode in order to better learn the attack patterns of the late game bosses, more specifically the last phase of the final boss. And I had done that run with melee combat just to speed it up a little bit. And before I began the stream that day, I entirely forgot to switch my controls back. And so 5 minutes into what was meant to be a day of great progress, I had technically failed the run. But given that I really didn't want to restart the entire run based on this alone, and that I didn't actually kill the enemy or gain anything from attacking the enemy, I chose to simply quit out to the last terminal, rebind my keys, and continue on as normal. If you think this violates the spirit of the run, or you honestly think that I should have started all the way from the beginning, you have no empathy. Honestly though, if you think I failed the run due to this mistake, I'm sorry, but I really don't see it as a massive deal. I'm just trying to be as transparent as possible about it. But you have whatever opinions you like about this because I physically can't stop you. With that blunder out of the way, I open the roof to the aquarium, genuinely one of the most confusing areas in the game for me, and get to solving more puzzles very poorly. This is where we reach the sad part of the run. The part where everyone dies, including my traveling companion Iris. Not only do I lose access to all of the services they provide, like Iris's chip upgrades, which I completely forgot to get, despite intentionally giving her meteor dust to prolong the timer, but I get to see the bottom portion of my screen riddled with messages telling me that I'm a horrible person. Which I did not enjoy. There was, however, one exception to this rule. One character whose life I chose to prolong no matter the cost. One that I was willing to use some of my much needed meteor dust on. And that is, of course, Funny Shark Boy. I mean, look at them, they just want to fish. I mean, I'd be an unforgivable stain of a person if I stopped them from fishing. Look at how sad they get. I can't do that. I won't. For the time being, Cleo gets to live for a little while longer. God, I keep getting sidetracked. Okay, so we make our way through the confusing puzzles of the aquarium to the first boss of the area, a relatively harmless crab thing who goes down without too much trouble. The only thing that made this boss remotely difficult was my incompetency in regards to aiming, but to be fair, that's entirely on me. That's the last cycle. Man, that was a shockingly uneventful counter that had nothing to do with the overarching plot. I really hope Studio Pixelpunk didn't choose to reskin this boss and bring them back later with a bajillion health, creating a potentially devastating roadblock for any tea enthusiast and or challenge runner that would encounter it, and causing yet another situation in which they felt like they were attempting to slam their head through a brick wall repeatedly. But they wouldn't do that, so I don't know what I'm talking about. I eventually make my way to the Shard Bearer's boss room, conveniently guessed yet another sequence of numbers. I should really buy a lottery ticket, and drop into the boss room below, coming face to face with Frost Automaton Maria, who is honestly really easy. With our improved damage and the amount of combo we can build up on her using our newly acquired max combo chip, which increases the max combo multiplier from 2 to 3 times, she goes down really easily compared to the rest of the shard holders in the game, which is honestly a really big relief. I should have saved up that combo meter. Oh well. She's dead. And with that, we have obtained our third shard and can finally make our way to the highways, which is one of my favorite areas in the game. I can't really pinpoint why, I just kind of think they're neat. After once again forfeiting all of our mortal possessions to Cleo, I take the elevator up and begin trying to remember where to go. After about 4 seconds, I realize that there's going to be an issue with this area that I don't typically have. Harpies, just an exorbitant amount of harpies. Typically, once again, these things are annoying, but not too taxing. You can just parry them and smash them to bits with your big strong axe. But once again, that changes in this playthrough. On their own, you can reliably parry them and start blasting before they cause you too much trouble. But in groups, or even paired with regular enemies for that matter, the distance they cover and the damage they take and deal is too much for my feeble mind to comprehend. And to make things worse, it's around this point that I learned Cleo only has about 24 hours left before they go unsighted. No, not again. Alright, I'm not using any more meteor dust this time. I want to. My heart says yes, but the run says no. I'm entirely out of meteor dust at this point, and even if I find some, there was no way I'd be able to keep doing this for the rest of the run. So, with a heavy heart, I relent and let Cleo fade slowly into non-existence. On a lighter note, following that tragedy, I managed to find one of the best discoveries of this run, this little pupper who I named Kebab. Not only does he manage to somewhat fill the vast shark-shaped hole in my cold, dead, and unbeating heart, but he also attacks enemies for me, which proves very useful. I take a break here after some poor gameplay, but after making a nice cup of tea and taking some time outside, I feel that I'm ready to continue the challenge. And this time, things go a lot more smoothly. I get the key to the 4 shard holder's boss room pretty easily and make my way there, also with very little trouble. The fight itself, though, yeah, it's pretty rough. Missiles falling down from the sky, a bunch of enemies on narrow platforms, tough parry timing, yeah, this hits most of the difficulty check marks. It takes me a while to get the parry timing down on the harpies, but once I get that, it doesn't take too long to find the successful attempt. Okay. Please, 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 please. One more. Okay. Forgetting the meteor shard like an idiot, I move on to the next dungeon of the game, which is by far my favorite. I'm not going to go into detail, but I think it's really straightforward and fun to go through. My only real issue with it is the movement that you have to use with this vehicle. The vehicle feels really big, clunky, and slow at times, and with how often you have to use it, the slowness really makes the dungeon feel long. I make my way through the factory, crafting the double hookshot, doing some exploring, and destroying the boss door. I decide to call it a day once again. At this point, I realize I'm making good time and can potentially finish the challenge the next day. And so I leave, make some more tea, and prepare for the day ahead. I begin day 4 with 0 technical issues whatsoever, and immediately have a massive Gundam fight. Also, fun fact, this is literally the only boss phase in the game that we can actually do the intended way. And that's it for that phase. But after our mech is destroyed, it's back to me using a pea shooter to relentlessly gun down this 40-foot Evangelion knockoff. Is that accurate? I haven't actually seen them. Whatever, I'm getting off track again. Okay. And now here we go with these again, which are once again super easy. If you know what you're doing, which I kind of do. Oh, I love seeing that damage number. And that should be the end of the run if I don't mess it up last moment. Okay. Big boy goes down pretty easily, and we get what should be the last meteor shard. I then remember that I never picked up the 4th shard from the bird automatons. Once again, being brought to tears by my own stupidity. Following a minor detour to grab the anticlimactic 5th shard, I'm finally able to craft the corrupted axe. Now seems like a good time to mention that at some point during one of these streams, I managed to pick up Raquel's axe as well, which I entirely forgot about. I equipped Raquel's axe to my primary slot, because it read, and equipped the corrupted axe to one of my other secondary ones because it'll be required in about 5 seconds. I opened the bridge to Crater Tower, and yeah. So, in order to pass this big blobby boy, who I will name Tim for simplicity's sake, you have to hit them with this corrupted axe. There is no way around this that I know of, at least one that doesn't involve glitches. However, here's my logic with this. The corrupted axe is used both as a tool for progression through the story and as a combat weapon. I'm not using the axe to damage a normal enemy, and it doesn't make the run any easier, it simply makes it possible. Tim is completely unable to fight back and cannot be damaged through any other means that I'm aware of, but bonking them is absolutely required to beat the game. So here's what I ultimately decided on. I am allowed to use the meteor axe to hit this specific type of enemy in order to make this run possible. And if you don't like that, too bad. And with that, I give Tim a few gentle taps on the head with a weapon the size of my entire body, and make my way past the sea of corpses into the Crater Tower depths. Before moving on to the final boss, I use the key card I got after the M fight to unlock the door and grab the ancient clock blueprint. That's right, we're going to attempt to go for the true ending, ladies and gents, so strap in because this is going to be a doozy. For the uninitiated, to unlock the true ending of Unsighted, you have to get the ancient clock blueprint and all 4 pieces of the ancient clock. 3 of these pieces, they're fine. Perfectly doable even, you just find them scattered throughout the world. But one of them is less doable. The process of getting the ancient clock hands is easily, without a doubt, my least favorite thing about this game. In order to get the ancient clock hands, you need to find the crypt, which is already a really odd area that I didn't even remember the location of. Not awful, just really small and easy to overlook. There's not even much here, there's just a few puzzles and some meteor dust, that's really it. But when you finish all the puzzles in this area, you gain the ability to fight the worst boss in any video game ever created. I may be slightly exaggerating, but I really despise this thing with every bone in my body. To give you a frame of reference, I would rather put a cactus down my shirt, slather myself in honey, and run an entire marathon in these shoes chased by a swarm of bees than beat this boss with only guns. I don't know why I put that in the script. Not only is it stupidly difficult, not only does it spawn in a ridiculous amount of enemies that keep spawning for way too long, not only does the boss have a health bar that would take until the heat death of the universe to whittle down, I mean look at this, but it is a reskin of a previous boss that wasn't even that difficult to begin with. It has no new moves, it has no new effects, no new music, nothing. In fact, on its own, the boss isn't even difficult, it's just really long. But these enemies that it spawns just will not give up. They chase you forever, and they have way too much health to reliably kill on each phase, and they keep spawning unless you destroy one of the claws on the robot, which, with our current damage, is borderline impossible to do. Now, there was one post on Reddit that stated that the enemies eventually do stop spawning, but I couldn't find any video evidence on this in which one of the claws on the robots hadn't been destroyed already. It was so bad that I was genuinely concerned that I would run out of time if I kept attempting it. I really tried to make this happen. I gave it everything that I had because I really wanted to get that true ending, but I just couldn't. If someone out there is able to do this, please send me video proof because I would really like to see it, but I'm just genuinely not good enough. Sorry guys. After that disappointment, I make my way over to the final terminal of the game and prepare to face off against the last boss, who has 5 distinct phases, albeit only 3 health bars. The Anima essence. I initiate the fight and start gunning down all of the bosses that we've already faced, which is obviously super easy considering that I had to nail all of their patterns in order to beat them in the first place. The second phase is a little bit trickier, requiring some strategy. But strategy is for chumps, so I decide to just wing it. Since both bosses share the same health bar, I can just pick the one I'm best against, parry them, and start blasting. Slightly easier. Okay. I'm then teleported to space, or something, I'm not really sure. I realize that this is it. This 3-phase boss is all that stands between me and the end of this run. My heart is beating out of my chest as I mentally prepare for the fight, and I'm ready to get this run over. Let's take a nap, right before the final boss room. After taking a nice long nap on the doorstep of Literal God, I make my way into the boss room. Okay, and that second phase, where it honestly, if anything, gets a tad easier. Just because you can parry the boss. Okay, I almost just locked that. We're so close. Just like another... God, I think I'm gonna... My heart's about to burst. Okay. This is just taking so long. Oh, okay. After 7.5 hours, capped off by a 12-minute boss fight, it's over. M comes back and teleports us out of the tower, Alma and Raquel are reunited, and we get the end cutscene, proving once and for all that it is completely possible to beat Unsighted with no melee weapons. I mean, as long as you don't count Tim. Hey, so before I sign off, I just kind of wanted to say a few things. Firstly, obviously, thank you for watching. This video took a lot of time to make, and your support really means a lot. Secondly, any and all resources I used to make this video, like music, footage from other creators, or anything else that I can't really think of off the top of my head, will be in the description below. And thirdly, I did notice while editing this video that this run was attempted on the Action Girl difficulty by MaddyTheEgg on YouTube. So feel free to hop on over to their channel, also linked in the description below, and show some support. And I think that's it. So if you want some more content in the future, feel free to like and subscribe. All of my socials should be linked on the screen, assuming that I wasn't too tired to put them in. So have a great day.